Great morning all. Good morning, Roxanne. No, I still do not have your song. My apologies. Daniela Williams, morning, Rookman. Gangadine, morning, Rookman. Blessed morning to you as well. Cyril Mayas, morning, sir. Arlene Lewis, morning, 29, Super C. Morning to you, Pauline Buckmeyer, morning. J Dimple, 66, morning. Renwick Roberts, morning to you. Annette Neptune, Oria Gani, morning. Holly Legol, morning, Holly. Same to you. Lisa Atwater, morning, Lisa. Ruben Rogers, morning, sir. Deborah Duranti, morning, Deborah. Neil Francois, always present, morning, sir. Leon Graves, morning to you. Annette Beard, Kathy Belfort, morning. John Kito, morning, sir. Jennifer Ferron, Sedena Koshi, morning, guys. Natalie F, morning. See who we have on Facebook. Deborah Duranti, morning. Carol Myers, morning, Carol. Morning, Diane. Joy Ragunanan, morning. Alison Boys, morning, Alison. William Williams, morning, sir. Kevin Thomas, morning to you. Eva Smith Spivey, morning. Carol says his son is out. Had a good run this morning. Okay, very nice. Christopher Coffey, morning. Judy Bowen, Marva James, morning to you. Melka Rock, morning. Continue this thing, Snow. Patsy Peters, Lennox Ramdani, morning. Phyllis Farrell, Think for Yourself, morning. Hazel Sennett, morning to you. Alberta Sampath, Marge France, Linda Supreme, morning. Ruth Trude, Marlene Pantin, Real Talk, morning. Donna Rogers, Florence Bazzi, morning. Florence Arthur James. Let's see who else we have here. Merle Durant, Gemma Alexander, morning to you. Sean Zeba, Pamela O'Connor, Chris Craigwell, morning. Marilyn Wanza Cloud, morning to you. Trying to find. If you don't say when you're using your phone, how does this work? Give me 1 second here, folks. I'm just trying to find. Let's see. June, April, June. And then this is it, right? Jennifer Nicholas, Glenn Richardson, Nigel Redhead, good morning. Is this it? No, that's not it. 16. Trying to find a video here that I wanted to. I think this might be it. No, that's not it. See that too. Give me 1 second here, folks. I'm just trying to. It's difficult to navigate the Parliament channel on your phone as opposed to your laptop. Just know. Where is it? 26. No, that's not it either. Oh boy. Just now. Give me 1 second. If I can't find that, I'll have to play it in another day. Was it this? I don't think it was this. No, that's not it either. All right, I'll have to look for it on another day, folks. I really wanted to play that. Anyhow, morning all. Let me jump into it because I have to jump off a little early today. I told you all I'm traveling on Monday. I have 1,010 things to do before I leave. So let me start across in Tobago. So I saw 2 days ago we had the reopening. The reopening, according to Fali, of the Mantal Lodge, which, as you may be aware, was one of two resorts that the previous PNM administration, THA administration, would have purchased to improve or to increase the room stock in Tobago. I believe the Mantal Lodge is supposed to be a 2-star resort, a 2-star hotel. And so they had a big ceremony 2 days ago where the Chief Secretary, Fali Augustine, opened the facility, reopened, as he said, because renovation of the facility after it was purchased would have started under the previous PNM administration. UDCOT would have done the work and then it was handed over to the THA. But according to Fali, 2 days ago, when they received the keys, he was of the assumption that they would be able to open for business the next day, and that wasn't the case because they had 1,010 things to do in addition to what UDCOT did. And this has become the habit and the norm of the Chief Secretary because he is so starved for accomplishments of the THA led by himself for him to promote his party, that when they complete projects that would have been started by the previous PNM administration and he has to open it, or even if it is he opened something or commissioned something that they started and completed, rather than use his feature address to speak to the issue at hand, talk about the facility, how it's going to improve the lives of the citizens or the residents of Tobago, he takes to attacking the PNM. So the other day when he opened the roundabout by Shilvan Road there, same thing he did. Rather than talk about the benefits of the roundabout, what was the impetus for the roundabout, how it is expected to improve the traffic situation, he spent most of his feature address by talking to PNM about Milsherv and the Cove project and all of that and how much money spent and that is what he thought best. And then come 2 days ago, when he reopened the Mantal Lodge, rather than use the feature address to talk about how this is going to increase the much needed room stock in Tobago, and share a little bit about the facility, maybe talk about its history and the like, how many people would be employed there, how it's going to impact the community. Instead, he walks with a grocery list, a litany of woes about when they were handed over the facility by UDCOT, and they found and the only things that they had to do, and they had to spend an additional $2.3 million to paint the rooms, and UDCOT had to purchase custom-built furniture and patio furniture and all kind of thing. And I'm saying, in the lead up to the 2021 THA election, which they won handsomely, 14-1, their mantra was, let we fix this. Fali and Duke, let we fix this. What have they fixed? What have they fixed other than themselves? What have they fixed in Tobago? Nothing of substance, right? All the projects, Watson Duke every day, he used to be doing 3-4 lives. He driving all over Tobago and going and highlighting everything that need to be fixed in Tobago and put us in. And when we win, we will fix this. And when we win, we will fix that. Every day. The Mantal Lodge was one too. He went up to Mantal Lodge and did a whole video, a walkthrough of the facility to show you, look, the PNM spent $10 million to buy this, and look at the condition that it's in, because the renovation hadn't started yet. But the contract had been awarded. Well, UDCOT had the responsibility for the facility. But my boy went and do his live and his show and thing, and we don't worry, and calling for charges to be laid, and this is corruption, and all of that bacchanal. Right? That was Watson. But he didn't last long, as we know. But Mr. Man come, and that's all he could do, bad talk, the previous administration. But they have nothing to show, or precious little to show. Imagine you have the new Tobago airport facility, the new airport terminal that looks I don't know how many of you have had occasion and opportunity to take a look at it. If you've seen pictures, they have a video now out, the artist and rendition, showing you what the airport will look like when it's complete. I mean, state-of-the-art business. Probably looking even better than the Piaco terminal, built by this PNM administration. You know, they will never highlight that. They have a page called the TPP Connect, Tobago People's Party Connect. They have just under 4,000 members. And they have about 5 people, only 5 people who always posting negatives. That page was supposed to promote the TPP-led THA administration, to highlight all of the good works that they're doing. But now, because there's a shortage of things to publish, all they're doing, they've now become an echo chamber for the UNC. Repeating, regurgitating, reposting propaganda from kick out the PNM. That's all. And attacking people and only referring to PNM supporters as the enslaved. All of them. Everything is the enslaved and the enslaved. But they could publish nothing positive. Only things that the different divisions doing, that's what they had to publish. Basic day-to-day things. So if they have some competition or something like that, they will post that. But there's nothing more, nothing of substance. But they have to say thank God to the PNM that they have an additional facility, right, that can accommodate, because when that new airport terminal is commissioned, I think in early 2025, and you have more space now for additional airlines to come, and you have more airlift coming, hopefully, because as you know, Fali and his entourage, Tashia, Boris, and others, since they came into office, all they've been doing is flying all over. They're going to Germany. They're going to the UK. They went all over the Caribbean. So they're marketing Tobago. They're selling Tobago. Marketing and selling Tobago. And what? Any new airlines? Have they been able to secure any new airlines to come to Trinidad and Tobago? No, they haven't. So you're going to have this big airport facility, and it's going to depend on who to do it. So when more people start coming to Tobago eventually, because no longer would you have to walk out onto the tarmac and mount the steps to go onto the plane, right? Now they have they would have the gangway that you walk out on and walk directly onto the plane. In fact, I saw a video a few days ago. The equipment was being brought in on these big trucks. And a couple of Tobagonians, I wonder if I have it saved here, boy. Did I save it? Let's see, yeah. Let's see if I saved it. Let's check and see. Yeah. So the trucks bringing in the equipment, right, to put the retractable gangway and stuff. And the residents were so amazed. They come out with their phone taking videos. So it was passing by this shop or this little restaurant or something, and you don't see the 2 men, but 2 men talking, and they counting the number of trucks, and they're amazed, and they say, yeah, boy, we getting state-of-the-art airport, first world thing we getting. Yeah, them talking. Yeah, boy, that's the and they pointing at the trucks. Oh, I go, yeah, they want nothing with we in Tobago. Who building the airport? Not the THA, not the TPP. So towards the end of the video now, the guy was, well, both of them, but one of the guys says, the only thing we missing now, boy, is the sandals, The other fella, but you don't think they could still bring that back, boy? Bring it back where? That was part of let we fix this. Put us in office, and when we get in, we will tell Sandals to come back. How long now they in office? Almost 3 years. Have they had any discussions at all? All are they flying all over? How many times Tashia has been to Jamaica? The last visit, she did a live talking about who is unwashed. Who unwashed. I'm confused. But that's all Fali could do. Bad talk about the 5th schedule, and what the 5th schedule say, he and Trevor. Right? That's all. Bad talk the licensing officers. Bad talk the police. Try and blame Dr. Rowley for crime in Tobago. But show you what they have done in the last 2.5, well, 2.75, almost 3 years, that is worthy of them getting a second term. Can't find nothing. Could find absolutely nothing. But they have the minions talking about they're going to take the 2 seats, the 2 Tobago seats, Tobago East and Tobago West, and do what with it? Do what with it? You need at least 21 seats to form government. So if they win the 2 Tobago seats, there's only one option. You have to join with somebody. Or you could just decide, well, we're not joining with anybody. And hopefully one of the 2 parties in Trinidad will get a majority of at least 21 seats. Otherwise, to get the majority to form the government, somebody had to negotiate with them. And we already know how far he feels about Dr. Rowley and the PNM. So where do you think he's going to go? That is why, notwithstanding everything that we've heard in Tobago over the last almost 3 years, the UNC has had absolutely nothing to say. Save and except for when Fali come up with this recording with Akil Abdullah making allegations that he was in a meeting with the Prime Minister and the Commissioner of Police and other persons, and certain things that transpired there. The UNC had plenty to say about that. A lot to say about that. But when it is that the news coming out of Tobago is negative against the THA, the TPP, they have absolutely nothing to say. Right? These are the people who open to form the next government of Trinidad and Tobago, but they turn a complete blind eye and a deaf ear to any possible malfeasance. So you have allegations and accusations being made against THA secretaries. Kamla Prasad Bisesa, the leader of the opposition of Trinidad and Tobago, has had no comment on that. Her mouthpieces have had no comment on that. They have nothing to say. So whatever could happen in Tobago, they couldn't care less. Why? Because they already, you remember in 2020, on the night of the election, when the results were coming in, and different media houses were at the UNC headquarters, and they were on the board, showing you the board, they already had, the UNC already had the 2 seats in Tobago for what was then the PDP. So they were already counting that in there, because they know we're going to negotiate to get them 2 seats. And I'm saying I wouldn't put it past them if, God forbid, they should come back into office. Give Tobago what they want, or at least what Fali and they want. Not internal self-government, get them independence. Because when you listen or you read some of the comments of those posting on behalf of the TPP telling you about they have oil and they have gas, and that is why Trinidad don't want to let them go, well, let them go. But take note, is that the actions of a responsible opposition leader, Prime Minister in waiting, that you allowing or you will not speak on potential wrongdoing in Tobago, accusation or allegations against high-ranking officials in the Tobago, in the THA. You have nothing to say. That is why you cannot claim to be a national party. Because if you don't care what is happening in Tobago, where it is that they're asking for all kind of $4 billion of the national budget every year, but you couldn't care less how that money is spent. You couldn't care less if there's any malfeasance in the expenditure of those monies. But in Trinidad, I always like to talk about taxpayer money and taxpayer money and tax, but you couldn't care less about taxpayer money spending in Tobago. Claims of possible bid rigging and so on, and favoritism for contractors in Central. That $5 billion that the OPR, the procurement regulator, spoke about in contracts issued, how many of those was in Tobago? How many of those contracts were for the THA? But you're calling for Tanku calling for the government to give a list of the contractors. But I bet you if you get a list and you see plenty of those contracts were given out under the THA, Tanku has nothing to say about that. He'll pretend he didn't see that and only focus on Trinidad. We're only interested in the PNM. But in Tobago, we have nothing to say. Allow them. If Ali do what you want in Tobago. And well, he have his supporters, he have his minions. Up to now, they had the internal election 2-3 months ago. Up to now, they still can't publish the numbers, how many people voted. All we hear Fali say is that the turnout could have been better. Everybody else, when they have the internal election, will tell you the figures. This is the total number of persons who vote, regardless of whether it's looking good or not. But up to now, Falika didn't release that yet. Every time I ask them out, peace, what's going on? When we going to get it? Yeah, we're still verifying. Really? So long it taken to verify? The PNM and the UNC could verify in a day or two. 2 months later, you'll have so many members, so many people voted in that election that you're still counting. Man, miss me with that foolishness. Miss me with that nonsense. But they beat in their chest. Yeah, we're going to take Tobago East and Tobago West. But you couldn't even get people to come and vote for your party. Vote in the internal elections. They registered yet? What about the constitution? Remember a few months ago, the political leader of Ali said, they have a battery of lawyers working on this constitution. A battery, not one lawyer, battery of lawyers. Several. Senior counsel, in fact, he mentioned. Senior counsel and chief. How that paying for? Because if you don't have a constitution, you can't open a bank account. Right? Because that's one of the documents that the bank requires for a political party to open their account, right? Because the bylaws and the constitution and so on would dictate how this parties operate and the kind of monies they could expect to come in. So if you don't have a bank account, where you get any money from to pay this battery of senior counsel lawyers to work on your constitution? Where the money coming from? One cocoa. Same thing when they tell us about the launch of the PDP in Magdalena. One cocoa does full basket, and the membership contributed money. Which membership? You all ever had a membership drive? Back then, only to find out a few months later, that was in fact PSA money was used. And what's to say that the pension money was used for that. Right? They cannot be trusted. These are the same people who told us that the zipline project was in the Auditor General's report. Nowhere to be found in the Auditor General's report. What was sent was a management letter. And we've all become familiar now with what a management letter is in respect to this impasse between the Minister of Finance and the Auditor General. That when the management letter is sent, the contents of same gives you the opportunity to address the issues in there prior to the final report. There was no mention of the Auditor General, of the zipline in the Auditor General's report. But yet still, that didn't stop Duke and Farley from saying that. And then what happened? When it is the Auditor General, the then Auditor General attempted to go to Tobago to give explanation to the population of Tobago. Watson basically cuss out and tell her, hey, don't come here, no. I'll make your life a living hell. Keep your tail in Trinidad. What you coming up here for? You don't do your work already. What you coming here for? I didn't hear anybody who now all understand the role of the Auditor General tell Watson you keep fast and out of place and the Auditor General could do her job. That didn't happen. But all of a sudden, everybody defending the Auditor General. This one. But that one, when she came under attack, nobody came to her defense. She wasn't a hero then. That one wasn't a hero. No. Because she looking to upset the apple cart. That she keeps her tail in Trinidad. And allow Watson and them to do what they want to do in Tobago. And it continues. So, even though we've spoken to the issue of the assignment, says them cocoa big. Yeah. Now they give us some chop and talk about, oh, they have supporters in the US, in New York, and the supporters contribute to the party. And where is the money going? If you don't have a bank account, when they send the money, whose account is it going to? Where is the accountability to make sure that all monies that the party receives in the one cocoa basket, that it is properly accounted for? So anybody could thief. Where is the money going? That's my question. Who asking that? But the concern, they want to know about Balize House and how Balize House built and how Balize House going up, but they don't care about what happening in Tobago. Well, I want to tell them Saturday is the September affair. Right? It's an annual event that the PNM has. It's basically like a gala event that will be held at the Hyatt. Tickets are very expensive. Don't ask me the price, I know, but somebody organized my ticket. So they just tell me the ticket cost a lot of money, so make sure you come this year. Last year I was supposed to go and then things happened and I wasn't able to make it, and the ticket waste. So say if you know you ain't coming, don't waste the ticket because it's expensive. So I want to tell them, all who always watching Balize House and who playing Mako and who want to park up outside Balize House and do videos and do live to talk about how Balize House get to that. This is one of the events that we have. All right? And it's always sold out. Tickets are sold out. Yeah? Last time I know it was at least 1,500 a plate. So when tickets sell out, understand where the PNM gets the money from. And this is just one of several fundraisers. So we don't have to rely on selling tolom and sugar cake and fudge, right? Or polori and stuff as that other party claims that they do. We don't do that. Our membership pay their dues, right? The chairman of the party groups make sure they call the people, hey, membership dues. Don't forget, as I told you all before, my chairman don't make smoke. When he knows his time, he making sure he put in a call. That's the only time for the year I talk to him. He calling me. And he reminded me. If I tell him, today, he gets any money, he will call me first thing in the morning to remind you. Remember you said today? If for any reason you can't do it today, let me know what day and where we could meet so I could collect my pesos to remit to the party because we need the money. Balize House had to finish it, almost finished, and it's looking very good. For those of you who haven't seen it in a while, you realize they're gone quieter? For now. For now. But as soon as it finished, and you see they have the opening ceremony, they're going to jump back on that bandwagon and make all kind of allegations about who thief and how thief and Balize House bill. Last figure, they said it cost $200 million. Well, when it finally opened, they see how nice it looked. We might hear it cost $500 million. Yeah? I asked them, they can't find one shred of evidence to say is thief money bill that. Because they're suffering to get anybody to give them any kind of contribution. They lack the ability and the skill to host a proper fundraiser. And when they do, the money disappears. Because people are asking, then they had their dollar fet and the choker fet and all this kind of thing, where the money gone? Asking, that was one of the questions that was asked during the internal election. Where the money gone from all these fundraisers that they've had? Since under Pandey, the former treasurer, what's his name, Yunanan Pasat, man said they raised $9 million towards building a headquarters. Where the money gone? Nobody knows. Well, let me come back here. Let me read Senator Lawrence Hislop, right? Speaking to that same issue. Posted this 9 hours ago. Let me read it. There is a 3-year-old infant that is attempting to speak out of turn, act out of place, and take credit for things it has trampled on for years to get political office. Successive PNM administrations in Tobago have always sought to secure and preserve the heritage and the economic stability of the island. One of the ways this was attempted was the purchase of the 2 tourism properties, namely the Mantal Lodge and the Sanctuary Resorts. These 2 properties were purchased with the intention to add to the much-needed hotel room stock on the island. The renovation of the Mantal Lodge was started in 2020, but due to the COVID-19 pandemic, renovation works slowed and even stopped. Post-THA elections of 2021, the works continued and were completed, with the hotel being handed over to the new THA administration by project managers Udicott in February of 2023. So that's last year. The Chief Secretary and his executive claimed there were additional works to be done before the official opening of the resort. From February 2023 to September 2024, they had the property locked or been used as their exclusive resort, not one paying customer for more than a year. But what gets me is, where does this juvenile, infantile bunch get off by claiming credit for the Mantal Lodge resort? You don't know how it come, how it start, and maybe not even how it finish. But just be quiet and run the place now. And take credit for the plans you have and the meaningful projects you actually accomplish. Try not to do more damage than you have already done in the 3 years that you are there, if you could even do that. Right, so that is Senator Hislop. Let me get this here. Let me see. Let me get this here. Should be able to pull it up because they're always attacking me on nonsense. I tell one of them the other day to pat down. Well, boy, she didn't like that. Tell her that. Let's play a little bit.
Inaccessibility of the current water storage tanks, and that's $27 million. In February last year, we received the keys, and the Tobago House of Assembly, we thought receive the keys today and tomorrow we can open up for business. But sometimes when you get a home that's completed and the contractor gives you the keys, you sometimes have to go in after the contractor and do more work to make it livable. And that was the case with Mantal. And so we had to engage EIDCOT to spend a further $2.3 million approximately in order to provide the following so we can actually open the hotel as opposed to just receiving the keys to the property. EIDCOT had to treat with insufficient water storage and the inaccessibility of the current water storage tanks. And that was to allow, if we had to bring water trucks in, they could actually fill the tanks. And so where they were initially located, they were inaccessible. Additionally, they were woefully inadequate given what we experience from time to time in the dry season. We had to also solve the problem of inadequate security measures, and that means camera systems and the technology required to secure the property. There was incomplete or inadequate outfitting of guest rooms, and so EIDCOT had to custom order patio furniture, safes for the rooms, irons and ironing boards, bins, pillows, lamps, coffee machines, etc. The commercial kitchen was incomplete, and so they had to complete the outfitting of the commercial kitchen. There was inadequate physical barriers around the property's perimeter. Repainting of guest rooms due to defective paint applications. We found that the paint in the bedrooms were just falling off the wall, literally. So they had to be repainted. In improperly sized equipment at laundry and the bar. Completion of works to achieve a fire certificate. We had to do termite treatment. I mean, this was a brand new second hand, I guess. So we had to do termite treatment. Inadequate rain protection at reception and restaurant. As a matter of fact, if you were here on a...
That's his feature address. A little near voice. And he had the little things he talk about. So, and then he thought he was funny when he says it was a brand new second hand. Was that a facility that EIDCOT built? Or something that was purchased and was renovated? What did he expect? But listening to this clown, you would swear, it's like you get a HDC house, and it's Fali, he expected that when he got the HDC house, it would be fully furnished. Right? State of the art, you see the best tiles it have, and state of the art kitchen and everything. When you go in the bedrooms, the best of everything. That apparently that is what he thought, or what he thought happens, or how he thinks it works. There are a number of facilities that EIDCOT are responsible for. Case in point, when Millefleur was given to the National Trust as its headquarters, and EIDCOT would have renovated the Heritage House, which was on the verge of collapse when this administration came in, thanks to absolute and wanton neglect by the previous administration, who had the highest energy revenues in the country's history. Right? And when this administration came in 2015, set about renovating these properties that were over 100 years old, and the original advice was to demolish the Heritage House and try and rebuild a replica. And then a decision was taken to engage the Cubans, who have experience and expertise with respect to renovation of houses of that nature. They came in and they were able to save it. And today, Millefleur, the Heritage House, is an income earner, because it seems almost every week you have corporate entities, private sector entities coming to rent the space for corporate events, weddings, engagement parties, to do advertisements and the like, right? But for the 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days that it was under the PP, it didn't make any money. It was losing money, in fact. It cost the state a lot of money. There are still those who are upset that the government spend, fix that. Because you know the usual crowd now. Yeah, but it have better things you could have spent the money on. So leave it, let it collapse. And then when it collapse, blame the government to say, look at that. Magnificent Seven. And they couldn't even fix it and all of that nonsense. Right? But there was a lot of things that the National Trust had to do. So UDCOT would have done the skeletal work. They renovated the building, but there are things that needed to be done. The muse at the back of the Heritage House, which now houses the offices of the staff of National Trust. It was just bare. It was renovated, but there was no furniture. The rooms, the offices were allocated and stuff, but there are a lot of things that needed to be done. You had to put in the tiling, put in air conditioning units, the toilet facilities, and so on. You do these things to the liking of the tenant, right? The Heritage House, because of the nature of the house, and you have to maintain the aesthetic, it's not air conditioned. So one of the challenges that is experienced is that when the facility is rented, you have to rent porta cool units, and you have fans and so on, because hey, it's hot inside, the people fanning and so on. I've been to a couple of the lectures that we've had, and it's really inside as be hot. So these things, but UDCOT didn't give us a completely, furnished and everything. There was work to be done, and these things were facilitated by PSIP, Public Sector Investment Program. So every year, when there are things to be done, you put it in your budget, and if it is approved, you get the monies and you do the work. So right now, one of the biggest projects taking place there is to air condition the ground floor of the Great House, of the Heritage House. But in having to maintain the aesthetic, you can't put air conditioning units in such a way so that when you come inside, you're seeing the units up on the wall, and then you see the compressor and stuff outside, because it's going to spoil the aesthetic. So you have to put the air conditioning units in the basement and cut vents in the flooring so that the AC will come through the vents in the floor. The same thing in Whitehall, the same thing at Stallmeyer's Castle. So all of that, and that is one of the many projects, and I will I will speak to with respect to this $5 billion contract issue that the OPR has. Because, as I said, when you put out the tender and you get the bids coming in and you look at the bids, half of them you can't entertain because the people are not registered. And then when you look at what is on offer, that really not making sense. But that is an expensive project. So the budget was granted, a budget was sent in to do the entire Heritage House upstairs and downstairs, but monies were only granted to do downstairs for now, but it is one project. I was making the point to you all, in a case like that, if monies were granted for just the downstairs for now, the ground floor, so you do the ground floor. If in the next fiscal money is sent by the government to do the upper floor, should you now go back out to tender again? When it is that the first contractor would have done the work, install all of the equipment in the basement, so it's just a matter of doing upstairs? Or should you just engage directly the current contractor who's going to do the ground floor, because they already did that part of it? So these are the things that need to be brought to bear. But when we see a big article in the newspapers about $5 billion in contracts given out and in contravention of the act, without understanding the finer points, you could see these things where the people who are actually in it and understand the challenges. In the first year, you will see a figure like that, because when the law was proclaimed, things didn't change. There was work to be done. And people were still getting accustomed to the new law and how it works. And people are still getting accustomed, still trying to navigate this new procurement regime and how and what are the requirements. Case in point, the new law states that the tenders committee, members of the board cannot sit on the tenders committee. But before, that's how it worked. The tenders committee basically made up of members of the board, which comprises persons, former public servants who have expertise in procurement and stuff. That is what their job was. So now you have to find people to populate the tenders committee from within the staff who don't have that experience. So you have to train them on how to evaluate tenders and all of that. That takes time. In the interim, there's work to be done. You have a timeline in which to spend the money. But these things, the newspaper wouldn't go, or the journalists wouldn't go and speak to some of these entities to find out, well, okay, What are some of the challenges that may have contributed to this? They're not interested in that, you know. Blazing it on the front page, and they know the talking point to be $5 billion give out in contract with no right thief. Yeah, they're giving out contract to their friend, family, and financiers, and they flouting the law, and that's why Rowley and them watered down the legislation because they know they wanted to give out contract to thief. It's a simple question. Just go and ask, and you'll get the information. Because it seems that the processes to basically make this new legislation work, people still trying to figure it out. And as you go along the way, you will identify challenges that you will now bring to the office of the OPR to tell them, look, people experiencing this problem. And then the procurement regulator now will have to take note of this, see what she could do from her side internally, what she's empowered to do, the changes that she can make to fix the problem, or take it back to the government, take it to the minister, so that they can now go to parliament and make the necessary legislative changes to allow to fix the problem. That is why you need to have your infrastructure in place before the law is proclaimed. So you could test it out and see what the challenges are, make the tweaks so that when it is rolled out, it could be smooth. That's the same thing with the local government reform. When the Prime Minister said the reason why they needed to extend by 1 year was so that they could sort out these things, so that when the law is proclaimed and it comes into effect, you can have a smooth rollout. Not like what happened with the procurement legislation, that you roll it out, you proclaim the law, and then a set of problems, and you have to fix it along the way. And in the meantime, people have to continue operating under the old system while you're trying to fix the issues with the new system. And that is why you would have that 5 billion issue. It is not an intentional thing of people trying to thief. It's just that the new system has problems. And if you want to get the work done, you need to still use parts of the old system until they work it out in the new system. But Tanko and them not interested in that. Right? They're not interested in that. But I thought I would raise that point. So when Fali complaining about they had to spend 2.3 million and he come with the whole grocery list to tell you this, that this tile was chipped and we needed to take out that one tile, and because we couldn't find that same tile, we needed to remove and do over the whole thing. But what's Duke? This, oh Lord, this now. Watson Duke spoke on that issue, and he is making allegations that that the current THA administration was using the Mantal Lodge over the last year or so as to use his word, as a den of iniquity. Call it a romping shop. Progressive Democratic Patriots political leader Watson Duke has alleged that the refurbished Mantal Lodge in Speyside is a den of iniquity. The keys for the two-star hotel and dive center was handed over to the THA in February 23, and Chief Secretary Fali Augustine announced that the tenders for managing it would be put out. An operator has not yet been selected. And at a news conference on June 20th at the PDP's headquarters, Portmore, Scarborough, Duke called on Fali Augustine-led THA to provide an update on the hotel in his budget presentation. He said he was very concerned about the dollars spent to bring Mantal Lodge to an overall cost of $32 million. They have refurbished it, and I am being told that the Mantal Lodge is being used as a romping shop for certain elite persons, and the tourists can't get there. That is what I'm being told, Duke alleged, saying as a result, it was prevented from generating income. Saying Tobago under the Augustine administration has become an island of lost dreams, Duke said the PDP's plan, even before it won on the 6th December 2021, was to set up cooperatives in several rural communities and so on. So he's alleging it was a romping shop here. Yeah, you know, you carry outside woman and you're outside man. That he say, not me. Anyway, on to other things in the time that I have left. So the Minister of Health was the victim of a robbery, and people have mixed views on it. In fact, I am seeing here Criminal Bar Association, so calls for thorough investigation into the Alsing's robbery. Criminal Bar Association President Israel Khan said yesterday that the robbery at gunpoint of Health Minister Terence Alsing should send a clear message to him that crime has come home to him, if not the entire cabinet, as it has to the entire country. But there are no allegations or speculation in the public domain that Mr. Alsing staged his own robbery, looking for sympathy. I don't know why Mr. Alsing would want to do something like that, but that he hired two men, staged this robbery, because they're saying, well, they robbed you, but they didn't take his wallet and they didn't take his phone. All they took was his bracelet, right? Many times you hear things like that happening. That people, my friend who I told you, the one who was robbed on Charlotte Street, and then the police took her to Massey stores in Marval to do the ID parade. Now, that's what you call it. I don't know how you can call it an ID parade. You have 5 men who fit the description of the perpetrator. You put them in different lanes. Tell the person, put on a COVID mask, and you just take a basket and walk through the aisle. And while you're walking through the aisle, play it normal, right? Just pretend you're shopping. And if you happen to see somebody looking like the man, or you see the man, point him out to us. But don't worry, we'll have officers in the lane. So in case he recognizes you and decides to snatch your wig, you'll be safe, right? But you just go and walk through and pretend you're shopping. And if you see the man, point him out, right? She had her purse with her. He didn't take the purse. He snatched the chain, lock her neck, jack her up, take the chain and go on with it. So she staged that too because he didn't take her cell phone, which she had on her, and he didn't take her purse, which she had on her. That was staged. But based on their stupid and dotish donkey logic, that was staged. Because they pull up, they take the man bracelet. Right? And they probably find, I hear Kingsley asking how the police reach so fast. Apparently, Kingsley don't know where Nyabinghi Bar is in relation to not 1, but 2 police stations in St. Joseph on the same stretch. So just after a stone's throw, you could literally stand up by Nyabinghi Bar, pelt a stone, and it will reach the first police post. And then you go lower down the road, closer to the bus route, and the St. Joseph police station is right there. So the police had to come, they jump in the van, and they just drive up the road. It ain't taking them a minute. Right? Put on your siren, you drive out from the one further down, and you just drive up the hill and it's right there. He don't know that. But he wants to know the police reach so quick. So all kind of, let me give you all an example of the fully done's.
I'm going to say something and some all are going to like it, but I'm going to say it anyway. I want to personally give a round of applause to the 2 men who robbed the minister. You see the men them who robbed Minister Terrence? I want to give all you a round of applause. I was saying down the other day and saying, but how these bad people in Trinidad so petty? All they only want to rob a small parlor, a doubles vendor, a taxi driver, you know? And saying, boy, wait, watch how petty. All they have these big ear out this and Z this and MP this. And all they only robbing petty people. I mean, the gun what all they using have more value than what all they robbing. Finally, I realized like all they starting to wake up and smell the coffee. Finally, I realized that these bad elements in Trinidad and Tobago starting to target the right set of people. I wanted to catch Bobby Head Lyman somewhere on a corner and rob he too. And for a matter of fact, the people who rob any I do all letter, please, I'm asking you kindly, don't just rob and take a bracelet alone. Please try to go in your pocket, take every cash. If you could get your bank account number, you're going with that too. You understand? You going with the car. If you could take down to your shoes, your pants, your boxers and all, you go with that too. Because I'm telling you, finally, these people have been robbing people for years. It's years upon years all they've been robbing black people. Now you coming on the media and looking like you was some kind of sympathy. Mr. Terrence here, let me show you something. There is no pastry selling around here. No sympathy for you, brother. Me, I know you.
As you call that, Trinidad, fully done's. Fully done's. All right? He wants to applaud the 2 men who robbed Mr. Dalsing. In other words, do it more. And then he talk about Bobby Head, so we know he's referring to Dr. Rowley. Right? Go on. You're hoping that they will hold up Dr. Rowley somewhere and rob him of everything that he has. So let us advocate more crime. Stop robbing the poor man. Time to start robbing. Rob the politicians. That making sense to him. And there are a lot of people on the other side, fully done's, like himself, advocating that nonsense. Them, that makes sense. Yeah, we applaud that. Yeah, they're up. And all who vex because the police were able to apprehend the 2 men in quick time. They're upset about that. Right? They're upset about that. Because when other people get robbed, the police thing, and one man came out and said that he was robbed, a businessman from the area said he was robbed many months ago, and up to now, I think he said the police, months later, the police came and spoke to him. And then we know the situation with the guy who had called the police station about a robbery, and the officer, you heard the transcript where the officer tell him, well, if he sit down on his hands, basically waiting for the police to come, he could come in the station and make a report and all of that. But they're upset. They're upset because Mr. Dayal Singh, the police were able to catch the men, as if this is the first time. The 6 of them that the police killed the other day, somewhere in Freeport or whatever it is, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Weren't they killed immediately after they committed a robbery? And the police were able to apprehend them immediately after, just mere minutes or so after they committed the crime. The police were able to apprehend them, and today they are all pushing up daisies. Well, I wasn't vexed about that. Police didn't work assiduously then, but make it seem as if it's only when a politician or somebody of high rank is the victim of a crime. Faris Al-Rawi's in-laws a few months ago were robbed in their home in West Morings, right? They were robbed in their home. The police catch who it is? No. That's Faris in-laws. So they were the victims. They weren't sitting down by a bar. They weren't in a restaurant. They had just come out from the bank or somewhere, wherever it is they went, and in their homes, they were the victims of a home invasion. Yes. Police didn't catch who it is. As far as based on my research, haven't seen that. We're going to talk about that. But in this instance, right, probably these miscreants were probably committed similar offenses in the area before, and a description was given by the persons who might have been the victims, because they said, I think it was a purple Elantra or something that they were driving. Police happened to be on patrol in the Port of Spain. And look at the difference from St. Joseph to Port of Spain. They happened to be in the area, and they saw the vehicle, and they were able to, they linked it and based on what was reported. But Mr. Dayal Singh would be so stupid as to pay 2 men to stage a robbery, right? Because he's so desperate for attention. To pay men to stage a robbery, and the police hold them and expect them to not speak if Mr. Dayal Singh staged it. But you see, Shundad is so, let me not bad talk the country. Yeah? These people, these conspiracy theorists, don't realize they could put ideas in people's head, So now, persons who may not yet have committed a crime but have aspirations so to do, could go and rob another minister or somebody, and then when the police hold them, say, well, yeah, it's a setup. That's not their defense. Hey, that's a good idea. We could say it was a setup. Don't put it past the other side to do things like that. Set up people to go and rob government ministers and then claim that it is the minister who set it up. They're desperate like that on that side. But they're upset. Upset about that. Right? So, never a dull moment in Sweet TNT. They write a song, one of them write a song there. Let me see if I get it here for you. We're playing thing today. I'm playing Google today.
Some of you wouldn't believe me, but then runs the stage that robbery. He just looking for attention. Yeah, the details I will mention. What kind of jokey bandit is he? The wallet and the SUV. I don't know what stunt he trying pull off. Making phone call when the cell phone off. All good sense they have to prevail. Them MP have police detail. Since when a minister sit down linemen by any corner? All kind of tricks and schemes with he just to gain public sympathy. He go say that we land on the moon all because election is coming soon. You lie? That is lie.
This is another fully done who always making a set of songs that is anti-government, anti-PNM, right? But there's so many things in there that is said that just demonstrate how stupid he is. Talking about which minister does move without security detail. Mr. Dayal Singh doesn't have any security detail. The only ministers who have a security detail, the Prime Minister. the Minister of Energy, the Minister of National Security, and I stand to be corrected, but I believe the Attorney General also may have some level of security, albeit I have seen the Attorney General driving about Port of Spain, driving himself, but I think he too is entitled. The other ministers have no security detail because their portfolios does not require that. But you hear this done. So you hear the logic that he is using that will, and it will sell with the fully done, and it's already selling. You say, well, yeah, right. Anybody who knows Terence Deyalsingh know Mr. Deyalsingh is perhaps one of the most down-to-earth ministers. When the Ministry of Health was on Park Street, Mr. Deyalsingh used to walk from his office, and lunchtime, you see him sit down by Mano's restaurant on Park Street there, having his fish broth or whatever it is, and he sit down normal, chatting with Mano and other people. You come in, Mr. Deyalsingh, hey, how you going and whatnot and stuff. You could sit down and eat a meal if you decide to eat in the restaurant and it have space by his table. Tell you sit down. You could talk to him and whatnot, and when he finish, he stroll back across to his office, normal. You see Mr. Deyalsingh walking across Park Street and about Port of Spain. No security detail and all like that. The other day I went to Trin City Mall. I saw him in Trin City Mall. He and a young lady, the young lady was pushing a wheelchair with some other medical equipment. So I don't know if he probably went to purchase some stuff for somebody, as the case may be. And he just walking through the mall normal. He ain't looking for no attention, not looking for any fame or nothing. Normal. I'm sure plenty of you here. Look, the other day when they had the for the independence celebration, Jenny posted up a video with Mr. Deyalsingh purchasing snow cone for a whole set of children, pull out the money and he paying. These things, when he did that the other day, they didn't know to write a song and that and talk about that. Huh? The 5 or the 7 members of the opposition who finally decided to turn up for the celebrations after 9 years. You see them buying anything for anybody? In the hot sun, the poor children there, they line up, all you come, Mr. Deyalsingh, all you come. Snow cone man, handle them children there. Let me know how much it is. And he there, he stand up, he waiting to pay his money out of his pocket. Not government money. That is his personal money he take. But the media didn't see it fit to highlight that. The country didn't see it fit to talk about that, Mr. Deyalsingh's generosity. Nah, they gear up. We talk about that for days. All kind of conspiracy theories. But he set up that and all of that. Set up dotish people. Dotish. That when it is Kamala Prasad's sister in 2010 when she was trying to win the election, remember they say her vehicle was broken into and stuff and whatnot, and the death threats that she had received and all that wasn't staged. Nah, that was genuine. Since then, no more death threats. Stupid. All right, let me just permit me to read this, right? So on Monday, I don't know how many of you would have listened to I-95. Right. Right. So, on Monday, it's Darian and Ralph Maraj, right? Ralph Maraj comes online and he's there for the duration of the program. And I don't know how many of you would have had occasion to listen. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to listen Monday because I had a meeting. And someone drew it to my attention that there was a very heated exchange between Mr. Maraj and Darian Marcel. Not the first time. But I went back on I-95, pulled that back online, and I listened to it. And I must say, Mr. Maraj this time was very nasty. In fact, referring to Darian, if memory serves me correctly, as a disease and a plague on national radio. Because Darian would have read Mr. Maraj's article, his most recent article from last Sunday, entitled The Deficit Finance Minister. And Darian took issue with a number of things that Mr. Maraj would have spoken about. He was very critical of the contents. And Ralph didn't like that. And well, boy, was back on hell. After they went to the 5 o'clock newscast, when they came back, Mr. Maraj's device, it seems, developed some problems, or his internet was suddenly stopped working and he didn't come back on. But it's not the first time that there's been such a heated exchange between the both of them. Permit me to read that before I open the line and just say a few words on that. Let me see here. I know I saved that. Why am I not seeing it just now? Mr. Deficit Minister. Deficit. Right. Deficit Finance Minister, September the 14th. As his tenure seems drawing to a close and history beckons, Finance Minister Colm Imbert faces his legacy. Soon, he would have presented 10 budgets in his 10 years and produced 9 deficits, the one exception being 2022, thanks to high energy prices from Russia's invasion of Ukraine. By the way, we know budget day is September the 30th. Many say Imbert deserves the sobriquet Mr. Deficit. This could be horrifying for someone who has engaged in significant self-aggrandizement as a finance minister, including a recent extravagant claim about the confidence the international financial community has in his ministry. People who wonder about the relationship between the above and the continuing drama from May this year, when Imbert and his finance ministry claimed that in their 2020 financial accounts, the revenue is understated by 2.6 billion, which, when added, would reduce the deficit from 3.411 billion to 811 million. A massive drop, a big boon for Mr. Deficit. I would correct you there, Mr. Maraj, it was 3.3 billion, right? Which would reduce the deficit even further. Furthering speculation was the claim by the Auditor General Jaiwanti Ramdas that Imbert could provide no documentation to support the increased revenue, but tried to bully and intimidate her to change her 2023 audit report. What is going on? Citizens asked. Former Minister Mariano Brown said Ramdas did her job professionally and creditably, given there was inadequate information. But what you expected in 7 days, Mr. Brown? That the Auditor General only responded after she received a pre-action protocol letter on the 15th of April, sent out her senior auditors on the 16th of April, and expected the ministry to produce all of the required documents to substantiate the understated revenue in 6 to 7 days. And notwithstanding that fact that there was a report already typed up and ready to be submitted on the 24th, 8 days after she received the pre-action protocol letter, right, with respect to the many attempts. In fact, what I wanted to play for you all was Mr. Imbert's presentation in the Parliament, where he spoke about and he chronicled that whole affair from the time the Permanent Secretary would have first contacted the Auditor General on the matter, coming all the way down. But I'll probably try and play that for you all on Sunday. I'll find it and I'll save it and we will play it, right? Because he said something, I heard it for the first time. I mean, I've heard mention made by Mr. Imbert and others about how that played off. But to hear him chronicle and tell you from the first time when the Permanent Secretary called the Auditor General or sent her a WhatsApp message or something like that with respect to the issue, and the Auditor General told the Permanent Secretary, right, I'll call you tomorrow on it. Never called. Then you had the Deputy Auditor General, when it says that the ministry contacted him, told him about the situation, and he said he will speak to the Auditor General and get back to the Ministry of Finance. He never got back to the Ministry of Finance either. So I think you all need to hear Mr. Imbert, and it is interesting to note, Jaiwanti Ramdas has never challenged or contradicted anything that Mr. Imbert would have said in the Parliament on that day. So I'll find it and I'll play it for you all on Sunday, right? So look out for that. You need to hear it to understand that when there are claims made that there is more afoot on the part of the Auditor General than simply wanting to do her job and wanting to do it to the best of her ability, when you hear what Mr. Imbert had to say based on what he was advised and what he was told by public servants who attempted to give her the information to fix the problem long before the report was due, put more things into perspective. But I continue. And then, compounding doubts, Imbert himself appointed a team to investigate. Citizens were incredulous. Imbert's handpicked team, they exclaimed, himself investigating himself. People smelled a cover-up coming. People smelled a cover-up coming. What cover-up? How the hell do you cover up $2.6 billion, Ralph Maraj? How? Or further, 3.3 billion. How do you cover up that? And people don't understand the basics. If Mr. Imbert and the government wanted to thief 3.3 billion, we submit the original accounts. 3.3 billion stolen. The Auditor General does her audit and she's satisfied that the government only earned 61 billion and not 64. She don't know nothing about no additional 3.3 billion. If Mr. Embed wanted to thief all he had to say, well, okay. The Auditor General says 61 billion in revenue, 61 billion it is. We're going with that. Fellas, we had 3.3 billion to thief. How much all you want? We splitting it equal? Yeah, because she didn't realize that an error was made, understated 3.3 billion, and she didn't pick up that, right? Nothing is made mention in the report. So she talked about a whole set of other, mundane things. Normal par for the course with respect to all Auditor General's report. So, yeah, easy. So I talk about the thief, and he, let us not forget, it was the Ministry of Finance that brought this to the attention of the Auditor General. It wasn't the Auditor General's department was doing its audit and came upon this and say, well, okay, based on what we see in here, 3.3 billion missing, or 3.3 billion is unaccounted for. Could you all provide us with the documentation? As the ministry went to the Auditor General and say, hey, we have an issue here. We discovered that the revenues for fiscal 2022 or 2023, it off by 3.3 billion. So who will steal money and then go and tell somebody, hey, well, the money missing, I realize you didn't notice that money missing, but money missing. So I thief it. I work for a company, I steal money from the company, and then I go and tell the boss, hey boss, money missing or no? Yeah, you need to launch an investigation, money missing, so that I could get locked up. That making sense. It making sense to the fully dance. Ah boy. Has it now arrived? After the initial imbroglio, Parliament had approved a motion to give the Auditor General more time to prepare a special report and address the error. Ramdas recently presented her report, but in a sworn affidavit, she said her duty to audit was compromised by the central bank, which denied her access to the electronic check clearing system that had led to the alleged understatement of 2.6 billion in revenue, and that when the Auditor General's department requested an urgent meeting with the central bank governor to examine the system, the request was denied. On top of that, it was Imbert who attempted the explanation for the bank's actions, not the governor. Alarming. So Ratmaraj is telling you he finds it alarming that Mr. Imbert would have put out a press release basically outlining what was told to him by the central bank governor with respect to the request that was made by the Auditor General. And he finds it alarming that the central bank governor didn't make a statement. So understand his thinking, and he bright, that the central bank governor should have injected himself into this impasse, right? So he's supposed to come out and make a statement. Hey, yes, you are Janty saying that that's not true. Central bank's supposed to do that. And the first thing they will say, which they are now saying, is that we need an investigation into the central bank governor for, bias. So he said nothing, he biased. If he had said something, he biased. The central bank, under the Central Bank Act, the governor and the central bank is supposed to be impartial, independent, not act in any way that gives the impression that they fish or fowl, or that they support any political party, regardless of what their own personal biases may be. In the execution of their duties, they must always appear to be impartial. That is why when the UNC went and pulled a driver from the central bank the other day to contest the local election last year, and the central bank reminded the individual of the bank's regulations with respect to that even the lowest of employees must always appear to be impartial. So you cannot go and say you want to contest an election for one particular party and you're an employee of the central bank, lest it give the impression that the central bank is partial to the UNC, who you represent. And they reminded him of what the repercussions would be if he continued to proceed. And he proceeded and he lost. But they took the matter to court and they lost again, right? But if it is that even the lowest of employees, and when I say lowest, I mean in terms of position, that they must abide by that impartiality that is required. You expect the man who on the top, the boss man, to come and make a statement that would give the impression that he is siding with the minister and he tried to defend the minister. The central bank governor did the right thing. Do not involve yourself in that. You know what the truth is. And if the Auditor General wants to lie, eventually the truth will come out somehow. But it's only because the minister, in seeing this, contacted the central bank governor to find out what is going on there, because the minister wants to get this thing resolved. And if in fact the central bank governor is holding that up, then the minister would get involved and see if it is that he could use moral suasion to fix the problem. But he made an inquiry, and the inquiry showed that what the Auditor General claimed was half the story and she chinks in with the rest. She didn't give the whole story, but gave the impression that the central bank just denied the request and didn't indicate, as the central bank governor did, based on what was reported by the minister, is that you sent your request, we responded, we told you what we require to facilitate your request. You gave us half of what we requested. The next half we're still waiting on. So unless and until you give us the other half, we can do nothing. They're still waiting for that, right? But Ralph didn't see that part. Well, he read Mr. Embutt's press release, but no mention of that here, right? Because just like the Tanku and Kamla Prasad Bisesa, they need to continue this facade that the Auditor General is a superhero. Is the central bank no longer an independent institution? People now ask. Really, who asking that, Ralph? Who asking that? Not sane citizens, not the right-thinking citizens. Anyway. Is it part of the cover-up that many suspect is afoot? What cover-up? You see where he going with this, right? And the Express has no problem in publishing this garbage. Mariano Brown says the Auditor General is right to stand her ground and not change her position without access to the bank's systems. He says the minister has the power to demand the central bank give full access to the Auditor General to examine the bank's electronic system. Why hasn't Embutt done that? Are they hiding something? Is it to protect Mr. Deficit? You see the depths to which this clown go into, right? The minister has the power to demand. The minister has no such power. I've been trying to find that clip with Mr. Embutt in the parliament. When prior to this, when he was giving a statement with respect to him as the minister, sending correspondence to the central bank, requesting information on the intended distribution of new $100 bills in December of this year with new security features. And he wanted to find out information such as what was the cost? What is the cost to the state of these new $100 bills? Who is the printer of the bills and all of these different things? And the central bank responded to him, basically telling him, we don't want to give you that information, and reminded him, and they referred him to the Central Bank Act, right? To date, Mr. Embutt hasn't gotten the information. He just requested, and as he said in the parliament, he said, I just wanted to know with respect to that, how much, what is, because people are asking questions, what is it cost, and all of these different things. And even me as minister, the central bank put him in place and remind him. So to listen to Ralph Maraj, who was a former government minister, telling you nonsense about the minister could demand, no. The central bank is an independent institution. All right? But like he didn't get that memo. Embutt could have avoided his new title. He had real opportunity when appointed in 2015. He met a 40% drop in national earnings of 20 billion, from 57 billion to 37 billion, due to global structural changes in the energy industry, our main revenue earner. Here was his date with destiny. Never before had diversification for new foreign earnings been so urgent. Diversify or die, I warned. History was presenting the opportunity to develop new foreign revenue streams and avoid the recurring deficits. Had Embutt taken up the challenge today, he would have been boasting with justification and singing lustily his favorite song, I Did It My Way. Instead, he is now Mr. Deficit, tuneless. He ducked destiny and for 9 years gave us hollow hyperbole, policy emptiness and paltry politicking accompanied by that insufferable arrogance. A more arid, visionless tenure has not emanated from that office. That's the deeper deficit, folks. This man has not stimulated, generated, incubated, or inspired a single new foreign revenue stream to keep this threatened economy and society afloat. Instead, he borrowed massively to finance recurrent expenditure and with the full approval of his prime minister. Embutt has contributed immensely to what I have termed the decade of darkness brought on Trinidad and Tobago by Keith Rowley and his administration. IMF data shows the economy declined by over 19% from 2015 to 2021, with real GDP falling from 185 billion in 2015 to 149 in 2022. Economic darkness under Mr. Deficit and his prime minister, and it will continue. Senior economist Valmiki Arjun points out that energy revenues for the first 9 months of the fiscal year are 10.8 billion lower than for the same period last year. No new revenue, so another deficit on the way, over 9 billion with larger ones to come. Embutt's decade of deficits. But apparently Ralph didn't hear when the same Dr. Valmiki Arjun, as I played for you all the other day, mentioned that thanks to the negotiation skills of Dr. Rowley and Stuart Young, that in the first 9 months of this same fiscal that he referenced, that the energy revenues were higher than they were pre-pandemic. higher than they were in 2018 and 2019 when we were producing more gas. He didn't mention that. Apparently, he missed that. Further, Arjun says less revenues have pushed us to borrowings to meet our spending obligations, that the reserve requirement for commercial banks has been lowered to free up 3.9 billion of additional liquidity to facilitate more borrowings from the local market, and less borrowing locally and abroad. Even though Imbert recently confessed in a sworn affidavit that the government cannot continue to sustain budget deficits by increasing government borrowing and debt much longer, he continues to do it as he has for 10 wasted years. Behold, Mr. Deficit, your very own finance minister, people. So says Ralph Maraj. What's the interesting thing with Ralph Maraj? All of the things that is happening in government, with respect to the Ministry of Youth Development and so on, the Ministry of Trade, he will never write an article on that. He will come and he will write an article bigging up Guyana, right? And what the Guyanese Prime President is doing with respect to agriculture and how many hundreds or what thousand acres that have been given out for coconut production and the like, and sugar and all of that. But in Trinidad, no. The fact that the government is investing in young people and creating a whole new cadre of farmers into the future, young people, making agriculture sexy again. Agriculture is something that young people never really considered until now, with the opportunities, the incentives that are being provided for the state. But every time diversification come up, all they talk about is agriculture, as if that is the only avenue. I listened to Philip Alexander the other morning. Brian called me and told me to take a listen, the interview that he did with Marlon Hopkinson on CCN, TV6, morning edition. When they asked him about diversification, the first thing he come and talk about, the only thing he spoke about was agriculture. As if that's the only option you have for diversification. You have so many other sectors, the manufacturing sector, which is doing extremely well. You have the fashion. The government has also offered incentives with respect to the fashion sector to encourage young people to become fashion designers. I was talking to someone recently who was telling me the Ministry of Trade and Industry has identified there's a shortage of over 1,000 stitchers or whatever it is, that you have fashion designers who could design clothing, but they don't know how to do a basic stitch, right? So you need people who know how to sew. There is a shortage there. Every time we talk about tech work, we're pointing people in that direction. We have on Savile Row in the UK, top-notch Trinidad and Tobago citizens who are tailors and so on. These opportunities that are available. We have people like Heather Jones. We have people like Tonya Pegas and the like. Are we using their skills? Mailing and so on. When last all I hear about these people? They have skills. You want to let them take it to the grave rather than you create up. They have opportunities that the young people could seek them out, but I'm sure the government will engage them if they haven't already done so that we could create the next Anya Yongchi who won what is Project Runway and all of these things. We have skilled people here. Clothes is a big thing. They could, who knows what could happen. Thing like on the US, you have Vera Wang and all of these different brands and so on. Ralph ain't gonna talk about them things, right? He wouldn't take the time. Let me call up Foster Cummings because I'm sure he knows Foster Cummings and find out what it is going on in the ministry. So I could get an idea. So I could use my space, my platform to highlight that rather than talking garbage and rubbish. Every week is an article attacking the government, but you would never speak about anything positive that is happening, right? But anyway, we will deal with that. We will deal with that on another day. But talking about deficits, that 8 out of the last 9 budgets, well, the last 9 years was deficits. I would remind him that under the $11.625 million minister, it was 4 years of deficits. Under the astute Winston Dukaran, deficit. For the 5 years that the PP was in office, deficits. Deficit budgets. This government today is paying back loans that they took. So, which contributes to the deficit that Mr. Imbert has to deal with because he has to find the money to pay interest and pay principal payments on loans that they took. Loans which only came due when this administration came in. But he wouldn't talk about that. No mention of that. And what's contributing to the deficits today? The fact that everybody wants something from the government. Well, most people anyway. That the majority of the budget, 85% goes to wages and salaries, transfers and subsidies. And the only way you can deal with deficit is either earn more money or cut expenditure. Where else do you expect the government to cut? You wouldn't talk about the fact that when this administration came in facing a significant decline in revenue, as he mentioned here, That they didn't do like what Mia Motley did in Barbados and send home over 1,700 public servants. Tell them, fend for all yourself. We can't afford to keep you all on staff, right? So we cut in expenditure. Their focus wasn't at that time finding new revenue. It was to cut expenditure. And that meant sending people home. This government sent home many public servants. Even during COVID, the Prime Minister is begging them, stay home, stay home, stay home. You're getting your full salary. Stay home, cock up your foot. Watch TV, do whatever you want, relax. And be sure that at the end of the month, your full salary in your bank account. Ralph wouldn't talk about them things. Coming to talk about the deficit minister. The minister could try and balance the budget, you know. But if it is that he has no control over the revenues and diversification doesn't happen overnight, apparently Ralph Maraj wants to give the impression that Mr. Imbut has a magic wand that he could just wave, and by the next day, yes, Trinidad and Tobago is fully diversified. What is the role of the private sector? They don't have a role to play in diversification too? But he will never call on the private sector, even though the private sector doing their thing. They're doing their thing. But they're talking about the food import bill and agriculture could solve that. But that's a rubbish. When Dr. Oli had to complain the other day that some of the things we import in is water. We have water here, but then we're spending money, precious US dollars to import Perrier and Zephyr Hills and all of these different brands. We want sparkling water because for some people, their stomach can't take normal water like the brands that we have here. They can't drink Dasani and Oasis and Blue Waters. No, they need Perrier, Zephyr Hills, and Voss. You know, the nice bottle. Yes, that's what we're spending money on. Things like that. But I want to know how agriculture fixing that, Ralph. Dr. Oli had to lament that. What they need to do is to take a list of all the things that we import. He wouldn't do that. No. This government is doing nothing towards the issue of diversification. What did the PP do? What new income streams did Kamala Persad-Bissessar introduce? When the Manning administration wanted to create the smelter, which would have been another income source. What did she do? She shut it down. She said, cancer will give all the smelter will give all the cancer, all they got dead. She canceled that today. What is the cost of a metric ton of aluminum? About $2,800 US or so. Could have been making plenty money. People of Robbery would have been smiling, right? She shut it down. So she's going to use she's going to use the facility to create a shipbuilding and ship repair facility. When that happened, we're still waiting. Where it is? Probably it's invisible like the $800 million in housing that we can't find in HDC. But she promised that. Then you wouldn't remind her of that, right? But attack this government and make it seem like they're incompetent so that you could promote the UNC. Because remember last year in the local election when Jack and Gary joined up with Kamala, that was another heated exchange between Ralph and Darian. We're talking about when I walk through the length and breadth of the country and I go to the market and the grocery, people are optimistic. There is hope. They feel hopeful. Really? You promoting that? So attack the PNM to promote the UNC as an aside, right? Because by default, if you're attacking the PNM and by default you're supporting the UNC because that's the main alternative. But you wouldn't espouse what it is they're offering. What are they offering? Every week, after Kamala Persad-Bissessar talk on the Monday Night Forum, Gary Griffith attacking her, you will put out a post the next day and rubbish everything that she said the night before as she seeks to articulate their manifesto. But Ralph wouldn't talk about it. He wouldn't take the opportunity to do what Gary Griffith doing, to inspect Kamala Persad-Bissessar's offerings in the manifesto and posit a position. You're doing that. No. You have time for that. Attack Minister Imbut and attack Keith Rowley. Yeah, they talk about the Petrotrin sin. Same thing over and over like a broken record. That's all he could do. Nothing of substance. But again, we will do. That is Ralph. Ralph has his axe to grind. Whatever is his motive, I don't know. Maybe he's still tooting because he thought Dr. Rowley might have given him a position and he didn't get that. So, a has-been. He's exactly what he is. Wannabe. Well, maybe Mrs. Persad-Bissessar might give him some consideration, make him an ambassador or something. Should she come back into office? If all you play fast and loose with your vote. I'm sure he would prefer that, just to go and cock up his foot like John Sandy when he went, after he was removed as Minister of National Security, the first Minister of National Security under Kamala. That's not it. and they sent him to Geneva to be the High Commissioner to the United Nations. And then what is that he did? Remember, they renovate the premises, the residence, double kitchen, double this, double that. They had smart toilets and all kind of thing. You all remember that? It was in the Auditor General's report. All that. Same Auditor General's report that they don't like to talk about. But anyway, I digress. So give me 1 second here, folks. As I said, I have a short morning, so let me so I implore you to keep it tight. Yes. And yeah, so let me just get this here. Right. So hold 1 second, caller. So that's hello, good morning. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, sir. Morning.
Good. I just want to say two things about Ralph Maraj. I've said a lot about him over the years, but I just confine myself to two things right now. One, it was not Dr. Keith Rowley, because I know you hate him. We all know that you hate him. It was not Dr. Keith Rowley who put your sister under house arrest. You know who put her under house arrest? It's the person who first made her a government minister in 1991. It was Patrick Manning. And that is because your sister was intent on bringing down Manning's government. Remember in those days, about that time, back in the early 90s, remember it was a 36-seat lower house. So the very minimum you could rule the country with is 19 seats. We are 21. Your sister started by removing Kent Ali down to 20. Then she removed Keith Rowley, 19. Next one on the chopping block was Keith Sobian. They should have made it 18. Government collapsed. You cannot run with 8. You cannot run the country with 18 seats. Patrick Manning realized what Ocasio-Cortez was up to. And before she could get a chance to move Sobian, he instructed the president of the country to put her under house arrest. That was the reason. That was the reason. Right? The intention was to bring down the government. But Manning forestalled her plans. And that is why he had to do what he did. So, Mr. Ralph Maraj, it is not Keith Rowley, the person you hate, who is a pattern and a tissue of poor, unadulterated, sickening language. And poor English, I must add. Thank you, Mr. Raymond.
Thank you, sir. Let me just get this here. 1 second. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Dominic.
Morning.
I'm not staying long. What happened to Mr. Yelsey was set up there. A friend and I, we prayed from 9:30 to Minister 1 Monday morning. And we saw something that correlated from this number. This number, look at it carefully. The tip of the iceberg. Let me tell Kamala something, the UNC. You see, what you plan, Kamala, will shape you. Because you are evil. And the man who say that Rob Bubblehead, you have technically threatened his life. Threats against a sitting PM, it is treason. You will get your portion. Father, in the name of Jesus Christ, and by the power of the blood, Lord, we ask you to keep this government you have ordained for a time and a season safe. every eye that want to come against your anointed father, for was in a cave, and they couldn't touch him because your hand was upon Saul as upon this government. Lord, everyone who attempts a 1990 will be found out, court-martialed, and put to death in Jesus' name. Now, watch his number. I'll call you later. I'll tell you what I saw.
All right.
Have a good day.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Hello, good morning.
Hey, good morning, sir.
I am good, man.
Yeah, good morning. I'm just trying to tell you for develop that thing, but many people would have forgotten about the unarmed coup that was attempted back then in the 90s, and why the government boundaries and created new seats for us to get a 41 seat. Remember the objection from them as well?
Mm-hmm.
They objected strenuously to that, and the government was gerrymandering and all. They didn't get to go to court on that as they want to do. Go to court for everything. I suspect that in this new term, the only election next year, expect to see a lot of bad behavior and walk out and set up the future. So, you leave out something there, but you set up the new procurement legislation right? And the frustration now until the
you're coming in a little muffled there, Colin.
Remember, there was a particular clause in the bill where the minister wanted to have almost like a carrying over period, and where the administrator would be the one, while the tenders committee was being set up, to rule on certain things and have a threshold in terms of what he or she could rule on the regulatory. Remember that?
Yes.
So that projects could go forward. And in the debate, they objected strenuously to that the minister shouldn't have that power,
yes,
to direct the regulator and so on. And every person is supposed to be independent. How the minister could direct them and tell them what to do and so on. And it is exactly for this very reason of what we have going on now, that was the intention behind it. Right? But you see, people understand when the government doesn't have the required majority to pass laws independent of government. This is the morass that we fall into, and that was intentional by them, right? Because they would never want to have anything function properly. And the other part about it is that, for me, I am saying that if they allow that, and what the government also wants to do, remember part of the thing was that the government also wants them to have the people who were contracted under the former regime and who were already in the system to come forward in a kind of rollover. And the new people coming under the new regime would then tender for projects and so on under the new regulator.
Yes.
All that was within the scope of the legislation-wise to enable projects to continue when they have already been granted tender and so on. And I am saying that it would have made so much sense if we had that. And what the government also wanted to do was have it as a kind of sunset clause. So the people who were already engaged by them would carry over, and then they would also then come under the new regime, where they would be registered and so on. And you have to understand, this is what this is timing the continuing or the advancement of projects in the area. Because if the contractors do not need the report to be registered, they cannot be registered.
Correct.
And this is the law that the government was forced to pass because of the opposition. But you see, they wouldn't go out and say that and speak the truth. They would just say that the government brought bad legislation from the start, and we had an obligation to protect the interest of the public. But that's not what they're doing. What they did is undermine the work of government to improve the lives of the citizens in the country. And that is all people, regardless of how you vote. And this is what people have to understand. And this is what they have done with all the other legislation. The same thing you see with the revenue authority people. That is what they do. The property tax bill. You know, I have to remind someone in one of my chats. I don't get that here, packet, Dominic. And people was the tariff sharing around these price together. Short TikTok video. The only thing that Dr. Rowley said when he said he was going to go secretary and this and that, and saying that I am a super fan because I told them I first shared the video in the chat of Larry White talking about the introduction of property tax from 14 to 17. It matters not that they were doing on a phase basis. The fact is, the 2010 before campaign was predicated on two things. Alleged corruption will be recovered by Mr. Manning and Collard and the introduction of property tax. But people conveniently forget that. And I just share that because I say, look at there, it is on your Hansard record, it is on YouTube, you can go and see it. But the debate of 2014, all right, and one who might said that, and that was the death term loudly done by the members of the government. But they're coming forward to see that the government for sure. I saw that videos going around with this lady talking about the being dealt with a hot time and so on, and sharing that. Right? And talking about your VAT. So you feel people in America and Canada and where they collect property tax, go pay VAT and so on. I think if I'm not right, England must have the most oppressive regime of VAT. Because they introduced that from people from the controlling government under Margaret Thatcher, and it's still there, and it has never been reduced, and it covers everything. Yet people complain, and others want to run there for vacation and go do all relatives there, right? Dominic, I just want to say that I want to thank all of us here on this platform. And I will continue to fight the flag and drop the facts on them.
Yes. Because
it's only the facts that we will bring on others present, and this is what they kill them. They can't retreat it. All they can do is bring lies and innuendo that are truths, according to the former district leader. Right? But I think that once we continue to bring the facts and the correct information, dispassionately and emotionless, we will win the game. I have no doubt. Like Mr. Charles and Mr. Youth always said, we have to widen it from beyond our people. And I try to do that all the time and every day. From my own family to friends. And these those who want to listen. And have people who will want to listen, but guide them. We'll continue to spread the truth. Thanks again for another enlightening and edifying story, brother.
You're most welcome, sir. Thank you. Here. Jenny.
Hey, morning, Dominic.
Morning.
I'm morning to all those who are tuning in and to want to facts and stuff and things. I want to support that was Simpleton there.
Yes.
Professor Simpleton.
Yes.
I want to support his sentiments and what you have said about keeping the information flowing. And this morning, I was listening to. I was give Bruce that support on mornings once he's there. And Ms. Felix, with the Tuesday and Thursday, I'll try to listen as much as I could stomach because the co-host has a kind of way of putting things that is, if you're not a person who reads or you understand or you want to know the truth or whatever, the things that the person is saying does make you feel kind of uneasy. With that, I'm saying this. Because of the information that persons like yourself, Ms. Davy, Ms. Felix, and so many others, Pastor Google and others have been putting out there with the support of people on Facebook who would make comments when they see people put up misinformation. And I know it's based on the things too that you all have been saying. And I know it's because they themselves are reading and understanding what it is, so they are willing to put it out. I want to encourage everybody to continue and get more people to do. Because if it was not getting through, there would be no need by those who oppose the PNM, those who are in the UNC, to be coming with so much misinformation. Because they know that just have a free rein to say what they're saying, but they understand there's a pushback and they understand people are not foolish anymore. And yes, some people may not call into a program, they may not put up a comment, but people are listening. I listened to somebody on 91.9 this morning make you feel, if you're uneducated and you just like hand out that, oh God, what we go do? We go suffer bad now because there's taxes and taxes, you can't pay that and sufferation. And he's encouraging people to rise up, to push back, to do something because the government taxing you too much. And even when I would have mentioned other countries that have taxes, especially like America that has so many taxes, it's more than your fingers could count. And people paying them. And if they don't pay, there are consequences to that. The taxman is there, the IRS is there. People lose their home. Stars have gone to jail. Wesley Sniper and others for evading taxes. It's a serious thing in a country that has printed their own money. But you're trying to tell us in Trinidad, be like the tax-free countries. Are those tax-free countries, are those the same type of culture and the same type of socioeconomic conditions we under? Do they have the same type of climate in terms of whether it's oil and gas they have? What is the society like? You have to look at those things when you talk about tax-free countries because these people have to live. The money have to come from somewhere. So you can't just throw there that they're tax-free countries, but then tell us, how does this tax-free country, what are the programs they have? Do they have all the social programs this country have? Do they have all the benefits that they have? Do they have all the learning programs, the institutional program, tertiary, from nursery to tertiary? Do they pay for that for you? Is there free healthcare? What do they do to make money? In our society, we have oil and gas. That's what we make our money from. And from time immemorial, even in the Bible and different religious texts, they speak about taxes. Taxes is a way of life. That is how our country would get most of its revenue. It is understood. So to tell us in this country, we tax him too high, and the way they're talking about it, like if the man on the street who's selling the water, he can't pay nothing at all. It's about regularizing this thing, having a discipline on all the, look at the vendors, the entrepreneurs on Charlotte Street, they have an order. They have an order, the spots that they have, they pay a little something to them, the date, and those taxes that they help when they finish to clean down the street, to wash down the street, to make sure they come back in a space that is clean. That's what it is about. People who live in gated communities, they pay all kind of taxes in the sense that you have to put money towards the security, so only the members of that in that community, they pay money because they need the community to be a certain way. You have to send your child to school and they want transport. You have to pay when the month comes. You have a $500, $800 to pay the person who's operating the little bus or the maxi, whatever. That is a way of life. You go in the grocery, whether or not you are business owner or not, you pay taxes. It is 12.5%. Taxes is the way that they collect money, but you know what? When you reach 65 years old, you never work in this country. You never put money towards a pension because you never work no way. You're entitled to an old age pension, or they calling it a grant because people were abusing it. Where the money coming from to put in that for you to get money at 65 years old? Where the money coming from to help the children who are unfortunate, born with different type of disabilities? They get that money free. Nobody put that money, their mother and father then put that money there so that they could get it back now. Those things are provided by the state, as which they should do to help people. But money has to be gotten to put there. Where you getting the money from? So I'm saying in context as I wind up at the end of the day, continue doing the work you're doing, Dominic and all the others, Ms. David, Sharon, Bruce, Google, all those on social media who are there fighting with us, making a comment. Continue to do it. People, the callers who call in, continue doing it and spread the word. Or keep it to yourself. That is the only way we could win this misinformation putting out there. And 2025, I am seeing that social media is going to play an important part. So that is where we have to be. So people don't feel discouraged. We are getting the work done because otherwise they will be fighting so hard to put out misinformation about what is happening.
Yes.
Again, I'm saying, if you understand the taxes or you don't, go by somebody to explain it to you. Imagine they're trying to tell you don't pay your property tax and it is the lowest 2%. When we born and the grandparents was paying the taxes, happy to pay it. No, people are running out, rushing out up in the east to pay the taxes. And they're saying, wait now, it's small money. Some of them is $300, $400 for the year. You can't tell me when the day come, the month come, the week come. You can put aside something so when the end of the year you can pay $400. It's just about managing your affairs. There's programs there that you're entitled to if you qualify for it. You have roofing grant, you have furniture grant, you have this. Where you feel the government gets the money from, only then put no money there. It's from the taxes that we pay, from corporate taxes, the taxes we pay off our salaries, taxes we pay on things we buy. Taxes is how things are done. So I'm saying again, people, spread the information that you're getting here. Spread the information you're getting on a platform. Spread that information. Spread it to your family, your friends. Come on the Facebook. Make comments. When you see this information, correct it. That is the only way we will get the word out. So those who want to preach illiteracy and ignorance and telling me to stand up against the government for things that all over the world people are paying the taxes. Trinidadians leave here and go to America and they live and they fall in line, they pay the taxes. Right here in this country, we heard a story that Prakash, I think it was Prakash, I can't remember, paying for a house somewhere in Miami and he paid in the US. He had to pay property tax. But in Trinidad, 2%. You're trying to tell the people who own the property, legally own the property, don't pay nothing on it. But you know what? You want to complain when you see your garbage you take up. But you know what? You want to complain when you see the streets stay clean. You know what? You want to complain when the bush high and all over the electricity pole and there. You want to complain all them things. And the government simply say, those money collected will go back into your corporation so that your corporation don't have to depend on central government again. They could use that. So you could call your councillor now. Councillor, I pay up my bill, no? I pay my taxes. Why the garbage still there? Councillor, you don't have to call your member of parliament again. You call the councillor. You go into your mayor, you go into the burgess, you go into the corporation and treat with it. You know, we give it a chance. And to Mr. Dial saying, these things are very traumatic. No matter what people are saying, it's traumatic. People deal with these things differently. It's very unfortunate that this is where we reach. However, look at the people who may have contributed to it. Didn't we hear Roche say that under Kamapasa disaster, they got rid of all the security systems that it had? Everything was open up, anything was coming. Didn't we hear them also say that the thief only money from the treasures if that are right to thief it? Then we always hear to say that the UNC is a kleptocratic government, meaning all of them.
Jenny?
Hello?
Jenny there?
Hello? Yes, I just want to ask one question.
I don't know what went on there. Yes, sir, go ahead. I don't know what went on there.
Hello?
Yes, Mr. H, go ahead. I don't know what went on there with Jenny's call.
Just one question I want to ask. And one question of a gentleman called Leroy Batiste, president of the PSA. I noticed that you are saying that you are continuing this fight and you're going to continue to take the government to court. But I have one question for you. And if you could answer that for me, I will be most grateful. And to me, this is the question of questions. When you continue to give Freedom House millions of dollars, right, with new trumped-up cases, whose money are you going to use? Are you going to use the union dues, which you have been using to fight these futile, bound-to-lose cases? Whose money are you going to use when you're going to continue now to hire UNC lawyers to fight your UNC battle? That's all I want to ask. And that is a question I think PSA members should be asking of Leroy Batiste. That is the question they should be asking.
Those are the things that Section 18 gives leeway for the union to get and do. But instead of that, he took it to the Privy Council, where it is in law now, where that the government from the TTR is not unconstitutional. So a template has been created. So any government want to decide, they want to form another body like that, say probably prisons or fire, that they can do it because of the precedent that was set in that case. that the Privy Council would have put there. So Leroy Baptiste coming to say that he's going to fight the government. It have no fight again. Because out of the 5 judges, only 1 judge would have said just simply that public officers, should be collecting taxes and that. But he never elaborated when they actually elaborate. So there was no real dissenting voice from the 5 warlords. So who he going to go to now? Is he going to the ILO to overturn a judgment that was given by the final appeal court in what Trinidad and Tobago ascribed to? Is he going to go now to the American Congress? Is he going to go to the United Nations? Where is he going to go? When there's a section in the Act that clearly identifies a way going forward with the union and the employer with regards to the members. And that is what the unions are formed for. The unions are formed to protect the interests, rights, and benefits of their members. So if you have an opportunity to go and sit down and work out a new terms of employment, a new terms of condition, a new collective agreement with these workers who are going over to the TTR, why are you not doing that? But he's fooling people and he's stolen a dress, as he did with WASA, took the government to court because the government want to restructure the business. Everybody know in the union world who is a labor person, even those who know in the labor, you can't stop an employer from wanting to restructure or modernize the business. That is, you cannot do that. What you do, you work with whatever laws that you have there to protect your members. And those things will concern, again, transitioning into the new entity, making sure your union remain the recognized majority union, make sure the workers who want to leave get the best packages, make sure if they want to go in the wider public service, they get positions there so that they could be comfortable and happy, and make sure those who go in across into the new entity, that they don't go across with the terms less favorable than they enjoy right now in the public service space, that they remain as public officers, although they're under this new entity. That is what Robbery is supposed to be doing, but he will not do it because he is a politics. And I will suspect, this is my opinion, these things are calculated when you look at the whole scene, the Auditor General behavior, taking all these matters to court. Who is the lawyer behind it? PSA taking the matter to court, and Kamala did say she lawyers win for the PSA, the UNC lawyers win. You remember that? When they will get the permission to carry this matter to the High Court, to the Privy Council. You telling me that all of them so learned didn't know they were laws? So that is why I'm saying it look as if it is a concerted plan and a plot. Because now you leave custom officers and BRO officers. And not only that, they take a junior, Ms. Torres, a junior officer in that division. Why don't you take a senior officer for the FIGA case? Is it because they didn't buy into you because they don't know you? So you choose somebody who you feel or you can manipulate to get you know to bring the case on her behalf, when all you had to do is abide to Section 18. So I'm telling people, I'm telling custom workers, BRO workers, for the owners on Leroy Baptiste to go and sit with the CPU and treat it Section 18 of the TTRA Act. That's the only thing can be done. Don't let him fool on you. Marching not going to stop that. Complaining ain't going to stop that. Let him go and do his job that he say he's the president doing. So that's the most I could say on that. And people, if you want the facts, the information, go in the places that you will get it, and don't be fooled by the rhetoric, because you're going to put up a big talk and big talk. He's a imps. Nobody know he. That's number one. Nobody in the public service know he. He is known in WASA. That when he has his strength, and he even working there again because he fool WASA workers, making them feel he could stop the government from restructuring WASA. Has that been stopped? So WASA workers right now must even want to see. So that is where he's at. And I don't know what public officers who are PSA members. And finally, before I go, there will be no election this year. That is because he did not put things in place for us to have an election this year. So there's no election committee. There's a timeline for that to be set up so that you have 90 days in which to have an election. It is due in December, about December the 14th, constitutionally due. There's nothing in place, so there can be no election. We have another window of opportunity next year, March, to have an election. So I'm calling on Mr. Edward LaFou, the registered trade unions. Please come and do your job. You can take over the union, oversee it, oversee the finances until an election is held free and fair. We are new executives installed to carry on the business. That is your job under the Trade Union Act. You can do it. You did it for SWWTU. You could do it for PSA also. That is the only hope we have. Mr. Edward Wilfook, anybody knowing him, please tell him we have reached a crisis state in the union. He understands that because he got letters written to him about what is happening in the union. Take over the PSA. Let us have election so we can have a free and fair election, and that PSA could continue to function to support and to represent the members, because unions are very important still and very relevant. It just depends on the leadership of the union. Thank you, Dominic, as usual, for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you. Right, so Eric will be my last call. Eric, before you say anything, let me just respond to somebody on YouTube. Winston Bachelor says, why no one have answered my question, should government ministers also pay taxes when they currently don't? Winston, that is what I call a fully dunce comment. The only taxes that ministers don't pay are taxes that are related to the purchase of one vehicle every 2 years. Government ministers pay income tax. They pay all other taxes. The only tax they don't pay is the tax associated with the purchase of one vehicle every 2 years. They don't pay the motor vehicle tax and the VAT and so on. If they purchase 2 vehicles, they have to pay all of the taxes associated with the purchase of the second vehicle if it's purchased within 2 years. They pay all other taxes. I don't know where you all get this nonsense from, that ministers don't pay taxes. Dr. Rowley has spoken on many an occasion pointing out the fact that he pays tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars per year in taxes, Winston. Income tax. They pay all taxes. Where do you all get this foolishness from? Ministers pay taxes. They pay VAT. They pay everything. Where you all get this that they exempt from paying taxes? Come now, man. If you're going to come and talk this rubbish, at least get your information right now. Jeez, boy. Eric.
Oh, God. Morning, Mr. Roman.
Morning, sir.
Scholars and viewers of another segment, Fact Fast about things. Dominic, by you saying that that's not sticking no way, no.
I know.
They have, let me tell you something, these people in this country, I won't say all, those who are following the propaganda machine from the UNC, right, they will continue like that. I don't know where they get the information from. Everybody, once you're living on the face of the earth, you're entitled to pay tax, right? So this kind of narrative only want to portray that ministers don't pay tax and president don't pay tax and who don't pay tax. Tax is across the board. You're thinking America, Donald Trump does pay tax, you know? Joe Biden does pay tax. Vladimir Putin does pay tax. All these communist country does pay tax. You know what is big problem in this country, Dominic? The UNC creating a welfare society in this country. The last 5 years there was there. So they created that so people could be dependent on the government for everything. And Kamala and them give out things. But you know that why they put her there, because she drunk and she fall down. She would have signed off thing. That is why you had the likes of Munilal and all them allegedly is millionaires in this country. I didn't say so. It's on the website. Yeah? A man who couldn't buy a double to that chubby, I didn't say so. Jacona say so. Today, 14 years later, you're a millionaire. Eh? You have a house that your guys are moving into since 2015. 9 years now, the house still there. You know why? Because they cannot account for the $800 million houses that you claim that all your bill. And up to this day, nobody cannot see it. They cannot find it and file it, locate it. You understand? But you're coming to tell me in my face what this administration did in the last 9 years. And the first thing Oliver put in the people's public domain is what? Crime, murder. Now you see, they feel that the murder rate is crime alone. Murder is part of the criminal behavior in society. It has fraud, it has rape, it has robbery, it has home invasion, it has embezzlement, it has different categories in crime. But the UNC want to portray the murder toll in this country that it continuously have on every single year for the last 9 years. When it was in opposition, they want to create a narrative that under this administration and under the then Stuart Young and Hines, that the crime under PNM has always been skyrocketed. Has anyone sit down and analyze and do and research why every time the UNC opposition, the crime statistics the murder statistics keep going up in this country? But then again, you have a leader, an opposition leader, who vying to be a prime minister in his second running, which will never happen. Coming on a platform to tell a nation, a population of 1.5 million people, right? That load of the matic, empty the clip, knock it again. But there's something under the laws in this country that is really considered treason, and not one member of the authority took that woman to task for that statement she made last year on the platform. That is treason, right? Look it up. It is treason. Any law person in this country could ascertain and state that is treason that that woman would have said on that platform. That is to overthrow the government and make problems and incites violence in our country. But you ain't committed from that and say you're condemning that. But I want to talk about Minister D.I.C. who got robbed on Tuesday in St. Joseph. Oh, it's a political banter and he's given political relevance. And all this and the other. I have met Mr. D.I.C. on an occasion, and that individual is one of the most humble person that you could ever interact with and talk with. I did not know Dominic. Where Mr. D.I.C. was said, oh, Mr. D.I.C. is a known person in St. Joseph. Because how long is not now Mr. D.I.C. sitting on that corner talking to people? It's not now. That is a political motivated tactic that the UNC trying to push down the narrative of the people in St. Joseph. You understand? That is a political, that is political influence. If you recall, it was a particular UNC senator living in Akono village. It's alleged, I wasn't there, it had a video circulating up in Akono village, right? That he went up there and caused us a bacchanal. He and the family and them. Right? So it won't be a surprise to me. Right? What took place there with Minister D.I.C. in St. Joseph's is political influence, or motivated, I should say. You understand? And then you have these nasty, dirty scoundrels on social media creating memes and creating video and TikTok, all kind of foolishness. All kind of foolishness and saying, oh, they're wishing that it should have been worse than how it happened. That is why people in this country, you see, this country has become a hateful society for each other. You understand? And thanks to the opposition leader for the last 9 years that you started opposition, that you created this problem, right? And then when he was prime minister back then, so it's going to show that all is not fit for this country. All is not fit. I am really upset because all it trying to stigmatize the minister, oh, it should have been worse than that. And then people making video, the one rob Dr. Rowley and do this and do that and do the other. That kind of violence that the opposition leader created with that statement she made last year.
But you're coming to tell me about vote for all, yeah? Yeah, I tell you something. If I vote for that woman, I chop up my finger. I'm telling you, UNC cannot get my vote once I live in this country. They would not now, not never, and not in the future. UNC would not get my vote. There is one person vote they ain't getting. But I my family can't vote for them. You understand? So people 2025 on the horizon, let us be focused on our college journey. Hashtag the mission is on 2025. Let us continue sending out the correct information and the facts to the people. And as I said, this page and other pages, follow it for factual information. And I saw on the page, Dominic, it have a listing of all the countries in the world that pay different taxes and how much they pay every year. Or they could go up and they could share it out and share the information out to the misinformed. Or they wouldn't like it, but still do it. Right? Dominic, good program as usual. I'm not going to listen.
Thank you, sir. Final call. Hello, good morning.
Dominic. What's going on?
All is well. I hope you ain't coming with what bacchanal you coming with today.
I want to tell you something, Dominic. And I would like you to give me your opinion at the end. Dominic, when they had the oil spill in Tobago, Dr. Rowley and Fali did a news conference. One long table. Dr. Rowley at one end, Fali at one end, they wouldn't sit down close to each other. Dominic, a reporter asked Dr. Rowley, when would we be getting a Coast Guard base in Tobago? Dr. Rowley told her, not in the distant future. Damien will be coming to Tobago to take a look around to see which part will be the best place to put the base. Dominic, you know who is Damien? You know what is Damien? Damien is the same company Dr. Rowley run him out on, saying that police was investigating that company in the Netherlands for corruption. Dominic, for corruption. Now that same company you want to bring to Tobago to build base for the Coast Guard. Dominic, is that making any sense? Dominic, I will leave it there. Tell me what you think.
All right.
I go on.
Okay. I think you need to go back and read that story again, right? With respect to this damning vessels and the middleman and so on, right? But it is almost 9 o'clock. So I will address that on Sunday, among other things, right? But the issue of the taxes, I will treat with that as well, right? If I find the time while I'm abroad, I will touch on that as well. Because as I said, I lecture in estate planning, right? And the people love to use the United States to compare to Trinidad and Tobago. And the amount of taxes that you have over there. I saw a video on the TPP Connect page. They post up this lady from Trinidad. She seems to be a very refined person, but her language says otherwise. And I would have played it for you all this morning, save and except for the cussing in it and, you know, some of the things that she says. But she's very upset that she has to pay property tax. In fact, she says she's not going to pay it. She'll make a jail because she doesn't see why she should have to pay government taxes. Government didn't help her to build her home and all of that. And she had to pay tax when you're building your house because you had to pay VAT on the material and all of these things. So you're already paying tax. So why do you have to come and pay a tax again? So I will try and see what the little parts that I can play for you so that you could hear it. But, you know, it was amazing to see that someone well, she appears to be, as I said, would debase yourself and go to that level to do a live but without any care as to what your friends or whoever see it may think of you. So that if this is somebody who you might have seen, you know, she looked like she probably held a senior position. Well, at least decent position somewhere, wherever it is that she works. She probably retired now. But what came out of her mouth, and she apologized at first for using certain words and stuff. But the point I'm making, she was upset about having to pay the property taxes. She's not paying it, and blah, 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 blah. And she sought to attack persons who decided that they want to pay it. I'm saying in the US, but not just in the US, because you have property tax in a number of Caribbean islands. I think all the other Caribbean islands have property tax. And their tax is based not on the annual rental value, but rather on the market value. So whereas here they tell you, well, okay, if you could get $3,000 a month rent for your house, we multiply the 3,000 by 12, we get 36,000, we minus 10% from that, and then we find 2% of the final figure, and that is what you pay. In other countries, in the Caribbean, we don't even have to go outside. You pay on the market value. So you pay a percentage if the value of your house is $1.5 million. If you have to pay 0.5% of 1.5 million, that's what you're paying. On the market value, not on the annual rental value. And a lot of people, as Mr. Chance mentioned, who are now lining up to pay their property tax, are saying, he has heard it, I have heard it, person have told me, I didn't know it was so, I thought it would be more than that, you know. I didn't know it's a little bit of money I had to pay. So I was vexed too, but when I get my assessment and I see it's just that small money, I say, I'm not going to pay that. The same lady who was cussing, talking about she will pay her land tax. She accustomed paying that, but she ain't paying no property tax. The previous law, the previous tax was called land and building tax. We simply changed the name from land and building to property. But apparently, a change of name makes a big difference for some people. But if we were to go back to the old land and building tax, as some of them are advocating because of the small rates that they pay, and that act required the government to do a reassessment of the values of properties, because that act would have come about sometime in 1920, right? Over 100 years ago. And the property values back then were pretty low. But the tax rate under the old land and building tax was 7%. Under this new property tax is 2% of the annual rental value. But under the old act, it was 7% of the annual rental value. So all the government should have done, what Mr. Manning should have done, instead of repealing that act, was simply do what that act required you to do, which was to do reassessments, update the values, the market values of the land, and charge you 7% on that, since that's what she wants, right? That's what she wants. But I don't know what land tax she's going to pay because that old tax no longer exists. But just to give you an example before I jump out, some of the taxes that you pay in the US is the same thing. You have to pay their certain closing fees and so on to taxes that you would pay. But you're paying property tax throughout your life. If you don't pay, they come in and take your house, right? And they're not concerned to sell it for the value. They just want what is owed, so what they get, because the state is not a landlord. But after having paid your property tax, you have a variety of different taxes. They have something called gift tax in the US, where you're allowed to give gifts up to a value of, I think, $15,000 for the year to any one person. But if you have to give that same person another gift, and the value exceeds the 15, so you give them, let's say you give them one gift and the value is 15,000, and then you want to give them another gift that's valued at 5,000. You have to pay taxes on that 5,000. So you can't just say, well, I want to buy something nice for somebody. You want to, you have your child getting, they graduate and you want to buy a car for them or something like that. You give it to them as a gift. You're paying gift tax. Once the value of that gift is beyond $15,000, you have to pay taxes on that. You have something called generation skipping tax, where every time you transfer property from one generation to the next, you have to pay a tax. And if you try a fast one, I've tried to pull a fast one and you say, well, okay, I am a grandfather. I have a piece of land that I want to give to my grandson, right? But the law requires you to pass it to your son or your child, and then you pay tax on that. And then your child will pass it to your grandchild, and they will pay tax. So every time it moves from one hand to the next, one generation to the next, taxes are incurred. When you die, right? When a person dies who is in possession, you have estate tax. So they calculate the total value of your estate. They don't care that you are paying taxes, that you are paying property taxes. They look at the total value of your estate and they charge you a tax on that. And the larger your estate is, the more taxes you pay. So people will say, so they penalize you for being wealthy. So because you decide you want to work hard and you want to buy this and do and build it, yes, You're paying that tax too. And then you have state death taxes, federal taxes to pay. You know what taxes? And the upper rate for the estate tax is 40%. But we complaining, Trinidad is terrible, and this government only want to tax, and we want to migrate, all migrate. Go and get your citizenship and go across there, right? And tell the government you're not paying the tax because you spend money and the government didn't help you to build your house, or the government didn't help you to buy a house, you ain't paying the tax. Go ahead and see what will happen. You will end up in a tent in Woodford Square. Different. But here in Jamaica, they complain. I heard her complaining too about we paying road tax. Where they get this road tax from, I don't know. Right? That when you go in the gas station and when you fill up your vehicle, you buy gas, you're paying a road tax. You're not paying any tax. So long as the government is paying a subsidy on fuel, you're not paying any tax. Because you're not paying the full price for a liter of gas and the government paying the difference. So if there is such a tax, the government paying it for you out of the difference. The only way you could be paying such a tax is if you're paying the full price, the actual price of a liter of fuel, then you would be paying a tax. But for now, so long as the government is paying a subsidy, you pay no tax because the difference the government has to pay. So I don't know where they're getting this nonsense from, but in Jamaica, in Guyana, they have toll roads as in the US. When I went to Jamaica last, I was surprised to see as the bus that picked us up in the airport, as soon as it turned onto the main highway, toll gate, right? You pull up. When you reach there, and it's not like in the US where you just drive through, right? And they snap a picture of your license plate number and then they send you see something come in the mail telling you your own, whatever. There, you have to pull up to the toll gate, scan your vehicle, your license plate, and then you see the amount of money that you have to pay come up on the screen. You pay your money, and the person lift up the barrier, you drive through. When you're coming back, pass through the toll gate again, same thing. Read your license plate, tells you how much money you have to pay, you pay your money, the person lift the barrier, you drive through. In Jamaica, in Guyana, they have that. Trinidad, we don't have that. But we want to talk about the roads and the state of the roads and the roads so good in the US. You know why? Because you have to pay. Every time I go to Florida, when I come back home, the bill, because the rental car company, when they charge my credit card, and I see in the tolls, I try, you could use Waze, but somehow Waze loves to send you where all the toll gates are, right? So sometimes when I come back, my toll bill is all kind of $50 US and all kind of thing. Just to drive on the roads, no. Just to drive on the roads, the highway. They're charging you. So you're heading, when you're leaving or when you're going, wherever, if you're going on to Miami, you pass through several toll gates. And when you're coming back, you pass through toll gates again. So you're paying both ways. Both ways. Ton of money. In the US, they have more oil and gas than we could ever have and ever hope to have. They have any subsidies? You hear the government saying, well, we will subsidize gas. No, US citizens always complaining about the pumps and the amount of money that they had to pay at the pump. You ever hear them placarding and saying, but the oil and gas belong to the citizens and we deserve subsidies. Water subsidized in the US, they have all the money, they could print money. Electricity subsidized. Most of these public utilities companies is private, not state. That is why when Joe Mandela came here, the last Trump's ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago, and the first outing that he had, the first meeting that he attended at the American Chamber of Commerce, he was surprised to see that the government of Trinidad and Tobago is involved in so many different sectors. He said, we don't have that in the US. All these things only involving in public utilities and the government providing this, and we don't have that in the US. That's what he was saying. He was surprised. He said the kind of public sector involvement all they have here, we don't have that in the US, so I cannot, while the chamber was asking him to, use his influence to get the US public sector to invest in Trinidad, he said, well, our public sector not like all you, You see all these things all the government have their hand in? We don't have that in the US, so I really can't help all there. So, but everything here, we want the government to be involved in. Even healthcare in the US, most of the hospitals is private. So in the US, you have to have health insurance or make sure your pocket deep. Other than you get Medicare and Medicaid and these things, but they don't have universal healthcare there. So make sure when you get sick, you call them. From the time the ambulance pull up, the bills start running. They're charging you for the ambulance, picking you up, and then depending on the type of care you need when you reach, and whatever care you get in the ambulance. So if it's serious, the care that you get in the ambulance will also dictate how much you have to pay. I told you, my friend who went to the US a couple years ago and had an emergency, Good thing she has private health insurance. Ended up in the hospital for 1 week in the ICU with blood clot in her lungs and so on, and they had to do surgery. And the bill came back. $775,000 TT dollars is what they billed her. And the insurance picked up most of that. Her private health insurance picked up most of that. Otherwise, she would have had to deal with that bill. $775,000 when she sent me the bill. 2 years later, they took 2 years, but they billed her $775,000. In Trinidad here, she would just go in the hospital, they deal with that thing, whatever, and then she go back home. And they give her a prescription to come back in the dispensary and get a drug. She would not pay 1 cent. But over there. But yeah, things so bad. And we need to leave Trinidad and we need to go to the US. Yeah, run to the US. Get better over there. All right. Folks, thank you all so much. I'm seeing Bongsub Central say even with Medicare and Medicaid, you still have to pay for the insurance policy for certain things. Yes, at one time I know under Obamacare, they had something called the individual mandate, where it is that if you didn't have health insurance, they were charging you a penalty, a percentage of your household income for not having health insurance. So they were forcing you, mandating you, and if you didn't take out the health insurance, you had to pay a penalty for that. We don't have that here, but this government wicked, and they only oppressing the poor. Well, if you call what is happening in this country oppression, what you'd call happening in the US, but all you're quick to run across there. Half of them who complaining, oh, the tax and this and that. Yeah, they get a green card in the morning, they're gone. Happy to go and pay the same taxes and more than what they have here. They feel they're going across there and cry oppression, and the government wicked, and they only want to charge, and people over there complaining about the high rates that they have to pay for home insurance and all of these different things. Yeah, but the road's so great. Really? It's unfortunate the majority of people who talk never travel. They only go in based on what they see on TV and figure, oh, it's so beautiful, and yeah, it have nice places too, but let me tell you something, I don't know all that. And I'm speaking as somebody who travels there frequently, not as somebody who lives there. So persons on here who live there could tell you. But yeah, that's the impression that they want to give. Roxanne sitting. Yes, Roxanne. Oh boy. Let me see. Bachelor is saying PNM ministers got sick some years ago. How much it cost taxpayers? It was millions. He's talking about Maxi Coffee. Okay. Yeah, that is part of their remuneration package, Mr. Bachelor. They entitled the state pays for that. You see, when you become a minister's basic salary is $41,000 a month, Mr. Bachelor. $41,000, and then they get paid. If you're an elected member of parliament, you get a salary for that too. And then if they serve on certain committees in parliament as well, the joint select committees and so on, they get, I think, $1,500 or something per committee. But that is all part of their remuneration package. And I keep making the point. You have government ministers who are making less money than the CEOs and the directors and of state entities that fall under them. Right? The central bank governor making over $175,000 a month. Mr. Imbert making $41,000. $41,000. The CEO of TSTT, B-Mobile, making over $200,000 a month. The Minister of Public Utilities, Marvin Gonzalez, making $41,000. So imagine one of his subordinates, somebody who working under him and who's accountable to him, making 5 times what he making. The general manager of TNTech making more money than the line minister. All of these state enterprises, NGC and all that under the Ministry of Energy. The heads of these companies making more money than Stuart Young. So when it is that you look at the salaries, that is why they get these incentives with the hope that politicians wouldn't thief. The only public servants who don't pay taxes is the president of the republic and judges, right? They don't pay no tax. So at least if they earning a decent salary, the expectation is that they wouldn't be inclined to take bribes to deliver judgments that they favor anybody, that they will remain impartial. But go and check and see the salaries of a lot of these entities. That is why it's difficult to get good people to leave their private sector jobs to go and become government ministers. Why it is that you feel Larry Hawaii had to take that 11 million? Because the money he was making as CEO of First Citizens Bank was plenty more money than he was making as a minister. But he makes sure he say, if I stay here, this is how much money I make. All I need to compensate me. If you want me to leave my cushy job here with all my perks to become a minister where I'm earning less money and I had to take cost too, yeah, he get 11 million to leave his nice job. So the CEO of First Citizens, which is a state-owned bank, making more money than the Minister of Finance. So take that into consideration the next time you want to complain, right? Consider that. Folks, enjoy your day. We will chat again on Sunday morning, God's willing. Yeah? Keep safe.